Hey, what's up, guys? You're now listening to Devo with Uncle Theo. Today is day 250, and we're going to cover Ezekiel chapters 22 through 24. Last time we left off, we saw how Israel was trying to avoid God's judgment. They were thinking maybe at the last minute he will relent. He'll change his mind at the last minute, and they've tried everything. They've pulled out every excuse in the book. They even tried to blame their parents, and God said, look, you cannot blame your parents for this. This will happen. And so basically what today we're going to see is he's going to further tell them why this has to happen. And he even gives 4 more signs today. So the last sign we saw in chapter 21, he brandished a sharp sword and struck his hands together. Today we're going to see 4 more. So let's dig in and look at some of those together. Verse 1, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, will you judge her? Will you judge this city of bloodshed? Then confront her with her detestable practices and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You city that brings on herself doom by shedding blood in her midst and defiles herself by making idols, you have become guilty because of the blood you have shed and have become defiled by the idols you have made. You have brought your days to a close and the end of your years has come. Therefore, I will make you an object of scorn to the nations and a laughingstock to all the countries. Those who are near and those who are far away will mock you, you infamous city full of turmoil. And these are their problems. Look at God as he lists them out. He said, you use your power to shed blood. You treated your mother and father with contempt. You've oppressed the foreigner and mistreated the fatherless and the widow. You despise my holy things and Sabbaths. You are slanderers who are bent on shedding blood. You eat at the mountain shrines and commit lewd acts. You dishonor your father's bed. You violate women when they are ceremonially unclean. You commit detestable offenses against your neighbor's wife. Another one defiles his daughter-in-law. Another violates his sister, his own father's daughter. And you are people who accept bribes to shed blood. You take interest and make profits off the poor. You extort unjust gain from your neighbors. And it all hinges on this. And you have forgotten me, declares the sovereign Lord. I will surely strike my hands together, remember, just like yesterday with the sword, at the unjust gain you have made and at the blood you have shed in your midst. Will your courage endure, or your hands be strong in the day I deal with you? I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will do it. I will disperse you among the nations and scatter you through the countries. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, the people of Israel have become dross to me. All of them are like copper, tin, iron, and lead left inside a furnace. And he says, I will gather you into the furnace to be melted with a fiery blast, and I will gather you in my anger and my wrath and put you inside the city and melt you. I will gather you and will blow on you with my fiery wrath, and you will be melted. So he struck his hands together in chapter 21. Now he gives an example of a furnace on how he would treat Israel. Then we move into chapter 23. He depicts Israel and Jerusalem as 2 adulterous sisters. It says in verse 1, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man. There were 2 women, daughters of the same mother. They became prostitutes in Egypt, engaging in prostitution from their youth. Aholah and Aholibah. Aholah engaged in prostitution while she was still mine, and she lusted after her lovers, the Assyrians, warriors clothed in blue, governors and commanders, all them handsome young men and mounted horsemen. During her youth, men slept with her, poured their lust on her. Therefore I delivered her into the hands of her lovers, the Assyrians, for whom she lusted. They stripped her, took away her sons and daughters, and killed her by the sword. She became a byword among women, and punishment was inflicted on her. Now that happened to Aholah, which is Samaria, he says. Now Aholibah is Jerusalem. So the story of this other sister, Aholah, remember from the same mother, picks up here in verse 11. Aholibah saw this, yet in her lust and prostitution, she was more depraved than her sister. She too lusted after Assyrians, governors and commanders, warriors in full dress, mounted horsemen, all handsome young men. I saw that she too defiled herself. Both of them went the same way, but she carried her prostitution still further. She saw men portrayed on a wall, figures of Chaldeans portrayed in red with belts around their waists and flowing turbans on their heads. All of them looked like Babylonian chariot officials, natives of Chaldea. As soon as she saw them, she lusted after them and sent messengers to them in Chaldea. Therefore, Aholibah, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will stir up your lovers against you, those you turned away from in disgust, and I will bring them against you from every side. They will cut off your noses and your ears, and those of you who are left will fall by the sword. They will take away your sons and daughters, and you who are left will be consumed by fire. So I will put a stop to the lewdness and prostitution you began in Egypt. You will not look on these things with longings or remember Egypt anymore. And as you can hear, God is going in. He says, therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says, since you have forgotten me and turned your back on me, you must bear the consequences of your lewdness and prostitution. The Lord said to me, son of man, will you judge Aholah and Aholibah? Then confront them with their detestable practices, for they have committed adultery and blood is on their hands. They committed adultery with their idols. They sacrificed their children whom they bore to me as food for them. This is what they did in my house. And that's what I was saying. They did this to God in his house. And you shouldn't say, wow, because when you sin, you're doing the exact same thing. You're defiling, you're disrespecting God in his house. You raise your hands up and say, Lord, come and dwell me with your presence, with your spirit. And you go right down the street and sin. You're doing the exact same thing that Aholiah and Aholibah did in chapter 23. And we all need to repent for that. And we all need to humble ourselves and understand how wicked and how vile we can get, and how we can too turn our backs on God and forget him. And this would have been our lot if it was not for Christ. And so we need to be very thankful what Jesus has made not only true, but available for us. These nations that they went after just used them as prostitutes. And they said, for this is all that she is. They slept with her as men sleep with a prostitute, and they slept. And this is how they did Aholah and Aholibah. And we wrap up here with the final 3 signs in chapter 24. Ezekiel had to cook a pot of stew in verses 1 through 14. And this cooking pot represents Jerusalem. And what happens here is going to shift from cooking meat and bones in the pot to burning away the impurities of that pot. And the cycle is repeated in verses 9 and 10 of the cooking of the meat and bones, and then the impurities are burnt off again in 11 and 12. In verse 13, he tells them what the impurity is. He says, now your impurity is lewdness, because I tried to cleanse you, but you would not be cleansed from your impurity. You will not be cleansed again until my wrath against you has subsided. I, the Lord, has spoken. Now the time has come for me to act. God is not playing around with his people. I will not hold back. I will not have pity, nor will I relent. You will be judged according to your conduct and your actions, declares the sovereign Lord. And we get another very sad sign here in chapter 24, verses 15 through 24. God takes away Ezekiel's wife to teach Israel another sign here. This is why I say, man, our prophets, our older brothers had it hard. Listen, the word of the Lord came to me, son of man. With one blow, I'm about to take away from you the delight of your eyes. Yet do not lament or weep or shed any tears. Groan quietly. Do not mourn for the dead. Keep your turban fastened and your sandals on your feet. Do not cover your mustache and beard and eat the customary food of mourners. So I spoke to the people in mourning, and in the evening, my wife died. The next morning, I did as I had been commanded. So God basically kills Ezekiel's wife, and they may sound harsh, but this is what God does to everybody at the end of their life. And if God is receiving a person to himself, this is a blessing for that person anyway, because he determines our birth date and death date. It just hits a little harder when it comes off as premature. And when this happens, God tells Ezekiel, you can't even mourn this death, because I'm about to show Israel that I'm about to take their stronghold, which they take pride in, the delight of their eyes, the object of their affection, and they won't be able to mourn or weep, but will waste away because of their sins. And so Ezekiel will be a sign that you will do just as he has done. And when this happens, you will know that I am the sovereign Lord. And we get the last sign here. Ezekiel was mute for a season. He couldn't speak. In verses 25 through 27, it says, and you, son of man, on the day I take away their stronghold, their joy and glory, the delight of their eyes, their heart's desire, and their sons and daughters as well. On that day, a fugitive will come to tell you the news. At the time, your mouth will be open. You will speak with him and will no longer be silent. So you will be a sign to them so that they will know that I am the Lord. These are some very hard lessons that Ezekiel had to go through and experience to give Israel signs to show them what events that they will experience in the exile. These are hard truths, but this is the result of disobedience. When your disobedience gets bad, the judgment gets bad. And even to the point where Ezekiel's very own wife is taken. Listen, sin brings suffering and sin brings sorrow. Let's mourn the effects of sin, but let's rejoice that the one who holds the office of both prophet, priest, and king, can make all of this right again, and he can restore the future of our nation. And he sits on the throne forever, and he will make everything right. And because of that, we have a hope, we have an expected end, and we will have the victory. The Messiah reigns, and he makes everything right. We may not see it even in our location today, but listen, trust your prophets. Jesus came, and he is coming again. You guys take care and have a good day.
Yeah.